Hello guys, welcome to Ben 10 What If. So in this video, we will see what if Ben 10 became the universe's greatest villain. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The Breaking Point. The sky over Bellwood burned crimson as Ben Tennyson slammed into a skyscraper, glass and concrete exploding outward like shrapnel. He'd been fighting for 3 straight hours, and his body screamed with every movement. The Omnitrix flashed yellow, timeout warning. Not now, Ben growled, twisting the dial with practiced precision. The familiar green flash enveloped him as he transformed mid-fall. Humongosaur. The massive dinosaur-like alien crashed into the street below, creating a crater that sent cars bouncing. Across the devastated intersection stood Vilgax, bigger, stronger, and somehow back from the dead. Again. How many times do I have to kill you? Ben roared, charging forward. Vilgax's cybernetic arm whirred as he caught Ben's fist. As many times as I must return, Tennyson. Our dance is eternal. Ben twisted, using Vilgax's grip against him to hurl the warlord through the lobby of a bank. Nothing's eternal, especially not you. At 21, Ben had spent 10 years fighting the same enemies. 10 years of victories that never stuck. 10 years watching threats he'd defeated return stronger and angrier. People ran screaming as Vilgax emerged from the building, alien tech glowing across his armor. He'd upgraded again, neural disruptors, phase shift capabilities, enhanced strength. The standard Vilgax package, but version 9.0 or whatever. Ben had lost count. Your city will be the first to fall, Vilgax announced, activating a device on his wrist. The air rippled as a massive ship decloaked overhead. Then your planet. Then every world that stands with you. Ben slapped the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. Ultimate Humongosaur. The transformation surged through him, missile launchers sprouting from his shoulders, his skin hardening into living armor. Before Ben could fire, Vilgax teleported behind him, driving a fist into his spine. Too slow, as always, Vilgax taunted. Ben spun, unleashing a barrage of biomissiles that Vilgax deflected with a force field. The explosions rocked nearby buildings, sending chunks of concrete raining down on the streets below. Evacuate the area. Ben shouted to the fleeing civilians, spotting a familiar face in the crowd. Julie Yamamoto stood frozen, phone in hand, filming the battle like dozens of other civilians. Julie! Get out of here! Ben yelled, distracted for a crucial second. Vilgax seized the opportunity, slamming his fist into the ground. A shockwave of energy rippled outward, cracking the street open in jagged lines. Your human sentimentality remains your greatest weakness, Vilgax sneered. Ben leaped into the air, slamming down toward his nemesis. And your talking is yours. They collided with enough force to shatter windows blocks away. Ben grabbed Vilgax by the throat, hurling him toward the harbor. Let's take this somewhere less populated. Vilgax crashed through 3 buildings before skidding across the water. Ben pursued, transforming mid-flight. Jet ray. He streaked across the sky, a blur of red against blue, firing neuroshock blasts that Vilgax batted away like flies. The warlord's ship moved overhead, weapon systems charging. I've evolved beyond your childish tactics, Vilgax called out. Your predictability is your downfall. The alien ship fired, a beam of energy slicing through the air where Ben had been a second earlier. He twisted, transformed again. Feedback. Energy crackled around Ben's fingertips as he absorbed the second blast, redirecting it back at the ship. The vessel shuddered, shields flickering. That the best you got? Ben taunted, hovering over the harbor. Vilgax pressed a button on his gauntlet. No. This is. The ship above fired again, not at Ben, but at downtown Bellwood. A massive beam carved through skyscrapers, setting off a chain of explosions. No. Ben screamed, racing back toward the city. Behind him, Vilgax laughed. The devastation was immediate. Buildings collapsed, streets buckled, fires erupted across the skyline. Ben transformed again, becoming water hazard to douse flames, then gravitac to stabilize falling structures. He worked frantically, saving who he could, where he could. Screams echoed from every direction. Emergency services overwhelmed. The Plumbers Earth Division mobilized but struggled with the scale of destruction. Ben spotted Gwen's mana shields protecting a group of civilians as Kevin absorbed concrete, shielding others with his body. Rook's proto-tool transformed into a support beam, holding up a collapsing wall. Ben! Gwen shouted. Vilgax is heading for the power plant. Ben nodded, transforming to XLR-8 and racing across the devastated city. His mind calculated casualties, damage, response times. This attack was different. Vilgax wasn't just trying to defeat Ben, he was trying to break him. The Bellwood nuclear power facility loomed ahead, its cooling towers intact but vulnerable. Vilgax stood atop the main reactor building, device in hand. One press and this entire region becomes uninhabitable for centuries, Vilgax called down. Your victory today requires sacrifice, Tennyson. Ben transformed to Big Chill, phasing through the facility walls and emerging behind Vilgax. Getting desperate in your old age? Getting smart, Vilgax corrected, pressing a button. Not on the device, on his gauntlet. Behind Ben, the sky flashed. Vilgax's ship fired again, not at the power plant but at the evacuation zone where Ben had left his team and the civilians. No! Ben screamed, ice breath forgotten as he transformed to Jet Ray again, racing back toward downtown. Too late. The blast had carved a crater through what had been a makeshift triage center. Bodies lay scattered, some still moving, others terrifyingly still. Gwen's mana shield had partially held, protecting dozens, but not everyone. Ben landed hard, transforming back to human form as he ran through the wreckage. Gwen. Kevin. Here. Kevin called, pulling himself from rubble, skin still metallic but dented and cracked. Gwen's injured but stable. Ben spotted his cousin being treated by emergency responders, her arm at an unnatural angle but her eyes open. Relief flooded him, then froze as he spotted a familiar pink jacket under fallen concrete. Julie. Ben whispered, scrambling over debris. He found her pinned, blood pooling beneath her body. Her eyes fluttered open as he reached her. Ben. Don't talk, Ben said, frantically working to lift the debris. You'll be okay. Just hang on. Julie's hand weakly grasped his. Not your fault. I'm going to fix this, Ben promised, the Omnitrix already cycling through alien options. Alien X can, Ben. Her voice grew fainter. Some things, even you can't. Her hand went limp in his. No, Ben whispered, then louder, no. The Omnitrix glowed as Ben slammed his hand down, transforming to clockwork. Golden light enveloped Julie as Ben attempted to reverse time around her body. Nothing happened. Work, damn it. Ben shouted, the gears in his head spinning faster. Kevin placed a hand on Clockwork's shoulder. Ben, she's gone. I can fix this. Ben insisted, the Omnitrix timing out, leaving him human and trembling. Paradox. Paradox. I know you can hear me. Only silence answered. Vilgax's laughter echoed from above as his ship hovered over the devastation. At last, you understand, Tennyson. True victory requires sacrifice, just not your own. Ben's face hardened, grief crystallizing into rage. The Omnitrix recharged, and he transformed without looking at the dial. Way big. The massive Tecuster erupted from the crater, hands snatching Vilgax's ship midair. Ben squeezed, metal shrieking as the hull crumpled. I'm done playing, Ben growled, cosmic energy building between his hands. Kevin shouted from below. Ben, the city. You'll destroy what's left. Ben hesitated for a crucial second. Vilgax teleported from the failing ship, appearing on Ben's shoulder with a neural disruptor already activated. Pain exploded through Ben's giant form as Vilgax drove the device into his neck. Even now, you hesitate, Vilgax mocked. This is why you will always lose what matters most. Ben crashed down, transforming involuntarily back to human form, the Omnitrix flickering red. Vilgax stood over him, weapon raised for a killing blow. A flash of purple mana slammed into Vilgax, sending him flying backward. Gwen stood shakily, her good arm extended, eyes glowing with power. Get away from my cousin, she snarled. Kevin and Rook flanked her, weapons ready despite their injuries. Plumber forces surrounded them, weapons trained on Vilgax. The warlord laughed, pressing a final button on his gauntlet. Another day, Tennyson. Remember this moment when next we meet. A teleportation beam engulfed him before anyone could react. Gone again, like always. Ben lay on the ground, staring at the sky as rain began to fall, mixing with the ash and dust. Around him, his city burned. Julie's funeral happened 3 days later. Ben stood apart from the other mourners, unable to meet the eyes of Julie's parents. The priest spoke about tragedy and cosmic plans, words that bounced off Ben without meaning. Gwen approached afterward, arm in a cast, face solemn. It wasn't your fault. I made her a target, Ben said flatly. Her and everyone in Bellwood. Vilgax made her a target, Gwen corrected. You can't blame yourself for his actions. Can't I? Ben turned to face her. 10 years, Gwen. 10 years of the same dance. We win, they come back, we win again. Nothing changes except the body count. Kevin joined them, hands in his pockets. What are you saying, Tennyson? I'm saying maybe we've been doing this wrong. Ben looked at the Omnitrix, its green glow reflecting in his eyes. Maybe it's time for a new approach. Ben, Gwen started, concern evident in her voice. I need some time, Ben cut her off, turning away. Don't follow me. He transformed to Jetray and shot into the sky before anyone could respond, leaving the cemetery and Bellwood behind. He flew for hours, across oceans and continents, thoughts churning like the clouds beneath him. Julie's voice echoed in his mind. Not your fault. But it was. All of it. Every return of Vilgax, every attack on Earth, every civilian casualty, they happened because Ben Tennyson was reactive, not proactive. He waited for threats to emerge before dealing with them, allowing enemies time to prepare, to strengthen, to target those he loved. The Omnitrix timed out over a remote mountain range. Ben fell, transforming to stinkfly seconds before impact, then landing roughly on a rocky outcrop. The alien landscape offered no comfort, just silence and cold wind. 10 years of the same mistakes, Ben muttered, transforming back to human form. When does it end? When you choose to end it, a voice responded from behind him. Ben spun, Omnitrix already active, to find a tall, slender alien watching him. The creature's skin shimmered like oil on water, its 4 arms thin but muscular, face elongated with pupilless silver eyes. Who are you? Ben demanded, finger hovering over the Omnitrix. A friend. The alien's voice resonated oddly, as if speaking through water. You can call me Vex. I'm not in the mood for new friends, Ben said, turning away. Not even ones who understand your dilemma. Vex moved with liquid grace, positioning himself in Ben's line of sight again. The endless cycle of victory and return. The mounting costs. The futility. Ben narrowed his eyes. How do you know about that? Because I've watched you, Ben Tennyson. For years. The wielder of the Omnitrix. The great hero. Vex's tone carried no mockery, only statement of fact. I've watched you save the universe repeatedly, only to watch the universe remain unchanged. What do you want? To show you what you've been missing. Vex gestured to the Omnitrix. That device contains power beyond what you've utilized. Beyond what its creator intended you to access. Ben scoffed. I've had the Omnitrix for a decade. I know what it can do. Do you? Vex's head tilted. Have you ever wondered why transformation must be singular? Why consciousness cannot be maintained across multiple forms simultaneously? The question caught Ben off guard. That's not how the Omnitrix works. Not how Azimuth programmed it to work, Vex corrected. The limitation is artificial, not inherent. The Omnitrix samples and recombines DNA. It creates transformations through genetic manipulation. Who decided those transformations must be exclusive? Ben stared at the device on his wrist with new eyes. That's not possible. Isn't it? Vex stepped closer. The Omnitrix connects to your consciousness, your very being. It doesn't replace you with the alien form, it transforms you into it. Your mind remains your own. What if that mind could extend across multiple transformations simultaneously? The concept was dizzying. Why would Azimuth hide something like that? Why does the great Azimuth do anything? Vex shrugged. Fear. Control. Perhaps he worried what a human might do with such power. Perhaps he never trusted you as much as he claimed. Ben frowned, memories surfacing, times Azimuth had withheld information, had lectured rather than collaborated, had treated Ben as a child rather than a partner. How would I even test this theory? The Omnitrix responds to thought as much as physical interaction, Vex explained. Focus on division rather than transformation. On becoming many rather than becoming one. And I should trust you because. You shouldn't, Vex said simply. Trust your own judgment. Ask yourself why, after 10 years, Vilgax still lives to threaten your loved ones. Ask yourself if the current approach is working. Then decide. With that, Vex stepped backward into shadow and vanished, leaving Ben alone with his thoughts and the weight of the Omnitrix on his wrist. For 3 days, Ben remained isolated in the mountains, considering Vex's words. On the 4th day, he made an attempt. Standing on a flat plateau, Ben activated the Omnitrix, cycling through alien options. He selected Swampfire, then closed his eyes, focusing not on becoming the alien, but on dividing his consciousness, on maintaining his human form while also transforming. Nothing happened. Ben tried again, selecting different aliens, attempting different mental approaches. Failure after failure. On the 7th day, frustrated and ready to give up, Ben sat cross-legged on the rocky ground, the Omnitrix before him. He disengaged the faceplate, examining the complex machinery within, something Azimuth had warned against countless times. What are you hiding? Ben whispered. Beneath the primary transformation circuit, barely visible, Ben spotted a secondary system with restricted protocols. Using a small rock, he carefully bridged connections, bypassing what appeared to be a limiter. The Omnitrix sparked, then reset, its glow shifting momentarily from green to blue before returning to normal. Ben reattached the faceplate and stood, heart racing. This time, when he activated the device, he visualized differently, not transforming fully, but extending himself, becoming more rather than different. Green light engulfed his left arm, spreading up to the shoulder but stopping there. His arm transformed to 4 arms, muscular red limb, while the rest of him remained human. It worked, Ben breathed, flexing the alien appendage. He focused again, and his right leg transformed to XLR-8's powerful runner's limb. Then his other arm to Diamond Head's crystalline structure. Each transformation connected to his consciousness simultaneously, he could feel and control each alien part as naturally as his human body. Ben laughed, the sound echoing across the mountains. The possibilities exploded in his mind. Not just partial transformations, but full, multiple transformations. Being multiple aliens simultaneously, coordinating their abilities across vast distances. The strategic applications were endless. The power, unprecedented. The Omnitrix suddenly flashed red, all transformed parts reverting to human. A hologram projected from the device, forming Azmatha's stern face. Benjamin Tennyson, the Galvan's voice crackled with static and anger. "What have you done?" "Removed your training wheels," Ben replied coolly. Azmatha's eyes narrowed. "You've bypassed critical safety protocols. The Omnitrix cannot maintain multiple transformations safely." "The power requirements alone would what?" Ben interrupted. "Drain the power cell faster. That's a small price for the capability." "The price is your sanity, fool boy." Azmath snapped. "Human consciousness isn't designed to split across multiple forms. The neurological strain could damage your mind permanently." Ben crossed his arms. "Funny how you never mentioned this feature at all. 10 years of lectures about responsibility, and you kept this from me the entire time." "Because it's dangerous." Azmatha's hologram flickered. The Omnitrix was designed for singular transformation for a reason. Multiple consciousness streams create feedback loops, personality fragmentation, increased aggression. "Sounds like excuses to limit my capabilities," Ben said. "How many people died last week because I could only be one alien at a time? How many more will die because you decided I couldn't handle the full power of this device?" Azmath fell silent, studying Ben's face. "This isn't about power. It's about grief. I heard about the attack on Bellwood. About your loss. Making drastic changes while emotionally compromised. I'm done letting you decide my limitations," Ben cut him off. "I'm done watching the same enemies return again and again because I wasn't decisive enough. Ben, listen to reason." "No." Ben's voice hardened. "You listen. For 10 years, I've used the Omnitrix your way. I've been the hero you wanted. And people keep dying. Julie's blood is on my hands because I wasn't strong enough, because I didn't have access to everything this device can do." "And what will you do with this power?" Azmath asked quietly. "What line will you cross first?" Ben's jaw tightened. "Whatever line is necessary to ensure no one else dies because I was too weak to stop it." Azmath sighed, suddenly looking every bit his thousands of years. "I cannot allow this, Ben." "You can't stop it," Ben replied. "The protocols are already bypassed. And unless you want to remove the Omnitrix entirely, which we both know you can't do remotely, you'll have to accept my decision." "Then I'm coming to Earth," Azmath declared. "We'll discuss this in person." "I won't be on Earth," Ben said. "I have some business to attend to first." The hologram flickered as Azmath leaned forward. "What business?" "The Incursians have been building forces again. Preparing for another invasion." Ben's eyes hardened. "I'm going to ensure it never happens." "Ben, diplomatic channels are all ready. Diplomacy failed the last 3 times, Ben interrupted. "I'm trying something new." Before Azmath could respond, Ben deactivated the hologram and transformed, not to a single alien, but splitting his consciousness into 3 separate forms simultaneously: Jetray, Ghost Freak, and Echo Echo. The strain was immediate and intense, like his mind being pulled in multiple directions. But beneath the discomfort came exhilaration, power flowing through him in ways he'd never experienced. Each form maintained full awareness of the others while functioning independently. Jetray launched into the sky, heading for orbit. Ghost Freak phased through the mountain toward a hidden cavern system. Echo Echo multiplied, spreading across the plateau. Ben's consciousness stretched, adapted, expanded to accommodate the multiple perspectives and sensations. It hurt, yes, but pain meant growth. Pain meant change. And change was long overdue. 3 days later, Emperor Milius of the Incursion Empire stood on his palace balcony, watching armored divisions prepare for their latest conquest. Earth had resisted previous invasions, but this time would be different. This time, they had new weapons, new allies, new tactics. A shadow passed overhead, small, quick, barely noticeable. Then another. And another. Milius squinted upward just as alarm klaxons began blaring across the capital city. The palace shields activated automatically, energy barriers shimmering into place. Too late. Jetray streaked through the shield harmonics, followed by Big Chill, Ghost Freak, and a dozen other alien forms, all Ben Tennyson, all moving with coordinated purpose. What in blazes, Milius managed before Humungosaur's massive fist connected with his torso, sending the Incursion Emperor crashing through his throne room wall. Across the city, Ben's various forms struck simultaneously, NRG melting the engines of warships, Upgrade infiltrating and reprogramming defense systems, Goop sliding through ventilation systems to disable power cores. Each form operated independently but coordinated with the others through their shared consciousness. Milius staggered to his feet as Humungosaur advanced on him. Tennyson. How are you in multiple places? New trick, Ben growled, voice deeper than usual, strain evident beneath the words. Like it? This is an act of war. Milius sputtered, reaching for an emergency beacon. Feedback materialized beside him, absorbing the electrical current from the device. No, this is prevention of war. Your war. Against Earth. Again. We have sovereignty. Milius protested. You can't just, I can, Ben interrupted. And I am. Outside, explosions rocked the capital as munitions depots detonated in synchronized blasts. Communications centers went dark. Command ships lost power and drifted in orbit. Within 20 minutes, the entire Incursion military infrastructure lay in ruins. Ben's Humungosaur form lifted Milius by the throat, bringing him eye level. Here's how this works now. The Incursion Empire is dissolved. Your conquered worlds are freed. Your military is disbanded. You have no authority. I'm not claiming authority, Ben said coldly. I'm stating fact. Resist, and next time I won't leave your civilization intact. Across the palace grounds, Ben's other forms gathered, 10 different aliens, all staring at Milius with the same hard expression. The Omnitrix symbol glowed on each of their chests, pulsing in synchronized rhythm. Impossible, Milius whispered. No one can maintain multiple transformations. I can, Ben said simply. And that changes everything. The news spread across the galaxy within days. The Incursion Empire, a major power for centuries, collapsed overnight, its worlds declaring independence, its military scattered and demoralized. And the name whispered in fear and awe, Ben Tennyson. On Earth, Gwen Tennyson watched the reports with growing concern, Kevin and Rook silent beside her in Plumber headquarters. He did this alone, Gwen said finally. Without telling any of us. And without authorization, Magistrate Tennyson, Max, added grimly. The Plumbers have protocols for intervention in sovereign systems. Ben ignored all of them. Can you blame him? Kevin asked. The Incursians have invaded Earth 3 times. They were gearing up for a 4th. He stopped it before it started. By becoming judge, jury, and one-man invasion force, Rook pointed out. Even if his goals were noble, his methods are concerning. Gwen's communicator beeped, Ben's signal. She answered immediately. Ben. Where are you? Coming home, her cousin's voice replied, sounding strained but satisfied. We need to talk. Yes, we do, Gwen agreed. Grandpa's pretty upset about the whole single-handedly dismantling an empire thing. Good, Ben said. That means he's paying attention. I'll be at headquarters in 20 minutes. The transmission cut off before Gwen could respond. He sounds different, Rook observed. He is different, Kevin replied. You would be too if you watched someone you loved die because you weren't strong enough to save them. Gwen shot him a warning look. That's not fair. Ben did everything he could. And it wasn't enough, Kevin finished. Now he's making sure it won't happen again. 20 minutes later, a flash of green light announced Ben's arrival in the Plumber headquarters main briefing room. But it wasn't Ben who appeared, it was Clockwork, Diamondhead, and Swampfire, materializing simultaneously. The three aliens stood silently as plumbers drew weapons, uncertainty and fear rippling through the room. "Stand down," Max ordered the agents, then addressed the three aliens. "Ben. What's going on?" The three forms spoke in unison, Ben's voice overlaid with each alien's distinctive tone. "Evolution." Green light flashed again, and the three aliens merged, leaving Ben in human form. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, skin pale, body thinner than before. But his eyes burned with intensity and purpose. "Ben," Gwen moved toward him, then stopped as he raised a hand. "I didn't come to argue," Ben said. "I came to explain what happens next." Max stepped forward. "And what exactly is that?" "A new approach to galactic security," Ben replied. "The Incursions were just the beginning. Every hostile species, every power-hungry tyrant, every threat to peaceful worlds, I'm taking them all down." "By yourself?" Rook asked incredulously. "If necessary." Ben's gaze swept the room. "But I'd prefer to have allies." "Allies follow rules," Max said firmly. "What you did violated dozens of interstellar laws and Plumber protocols. You can't just, rules that let the same threats return again and again," Ben interrupted. "Rules that failed to protect Earth. Failed to protect Julie." The room fell silent at the mention of her name. "I understand your grief, Ben," Max said gently. "But this path you're on, it's dangerous. Not just for the galaxy, but for you. I've discovered the Omnitrix's true potential," Ben continued as if Max hadn't spoken. "I can maintain multiple transformations simultaneously. I can be everywhere at once. No more choosing which crisis gets attention. No more watching people die because I was stretched too thin." "At what cost?" Gwen asked quietly. "You look terrible, Ben. What's this doing to you?" Ben's jaw tightened. "There's an adjustment period. My mind is learning to handle multiple consciousness streams." "You mean it's fracturing," a new voice stated. Ben turned to see Azimuth teleporting onto the conference table, expression grave. "The bypass you implemented is destroying neural pathways," Azimuth continued. "Each transformation draws power not just from the Omnitrix but from your own consciousness. Maintain multiple forms long enough, and you won't remember who Ben Tennyson is." "A price worth paying," Ben replied coldly. "Is it?" Azimuth challenged. "You claim to protect the universe, but the Ben Tennyson I entrusted the Omnitrix to would never consider himself above law, above democratic process, above the autonomy of entire civilizations. That Ben Tennyson watched the people he loved die," Ben shot back, anger flaring. "That Ben Tennyson failed. And this new approach won't." Gwen interjected. "Ben, you single-handedly overthrew a government. Even if they were hostile, that sets a terrifying precedent. Who decides which civilizations deserve your intervention? You. Alone?" "Yes," Ben said simply. "I do." Kevin whistled low. "That's some god complex you've developed, Tennyson." Ben's eyes narrowed. "It's pragmatism. I have the power to end threats permanently. To establish real peace, not this endless cycle of attack and response. By becoming the very thing you fought against," Azimuth said quietly. "A being who imposes his will on others through superior force. If that's what it takes." Max stepped closer to his grandson. "Ben, please. Take some time. Think about what you're doing." "I've had time," Ben replied. "I've had 10 years of watching the same mistakes repeated. 10 years of temporary victories and permanent losses." His voice softened slightly. "I don't expect you to understand yet. But you will. Ben, Gwen started. I'm establishing a new peacekeeping force, Ben continued. Based on Jupiter's moon Europa. Anyone who wants to join is welcome. Anyone who doesn't. He shrugged. Stay out of my way. With that, Ben activated the Omnitrix again, transforming not into a single alien but splitting into Jetray and Portaler simultaneously. Before anyone could react, the portal opened, and both forms vanished through it. Silence fell over the headquarters. Well, Kevin said finally. That went great. Gwen turned to Azimuth. How bad is it? The neural damage from multiple transformations? Potentially catastrophic, Azimuth admitted. The Omnitrix was never designed for consciousness distribution. Each transformation creates a separate neural pattern that should replace the user's human pattern temporarily. Maintaining multiple patterns simultaneously creates conflicting impulses, personality fragmentation, and eventually, complete dissociation from the base identity. In English? Kevin prompted. Ben will forget he's human, Gwen translated grimly. He'll lose himself in the aliens. Precisely, Azimuth nodded. And the more transformations he maintains, the faster the degradation. We have to stop him, Rook said. Before he causes an interstellar incident, or worse. It may already be too late, a new voice interjected. Everyone turned to see Professor Paradox standing in the corner, his timepiece glinting in his hand. The timeline has shifted, Paradox explained, his usually cheerful demeanor subdued. Benjamin's decision to embrace multiple transformations has created ripple effects across past and future. Can't you just go back and prevent it? Kevin asked. Unfortunately, no, Paradox sighed. This is what we call a fixed point, an event so significant that altering it would create paradoxes too dangerous to risk. Julie Yamamoto's death and Ben's subsequent choices have become load-bearing walls in the time stream. So we're stuck with Dictator Ben? Kevin frowned. Not necessarily, Paradox said. The path forward remains fluid. Benjamin stands at a crossroads, he can become the universe's greatest protector or its most terrible tyrant. Which outcome manifests depends on all of you. Great, Gwen muttered. No pressure. What about this Vex character? Max asked. Ben mentioned someone guided him to bypass the Omnitrix protocols. Paradox's expression darkened. Vex is concerning. A being not native to our dimension, with knowledge he shouldn't possess and motives I cannot discern. The fact that he sought Ben out specifically suggests an agenda. You think Ben's being manipulated? Gwen asked. I think Benjamin's grief made him vulnerable to manipulation, Paradox corrected. Whether Vex is the cause or merely capitalizing on opportunity remains unclear. Azimuth frowned. I need to examine the Omnitrix modifications. If I can understand what Ben did to bypass the protocols, perhaps I can develop a countermeasure. Good luck getting near him, Kevin scoffed. He's not exactly in a trusting mood. Gwen's eyes suddenly widened. Wait. If Ben can be multiple aliens simultaneously, operate in multiple locations. He could be here right now, Rook finished, glancing around suspiciously. Max raised his hand. Headquarters has sensors specifically calibrated to detect Omnitrix energy signatures. If Ben were here in any form, we'd know. Unless he's found a way around that too, Kevin pointed out. The uncomfortable silence that followed spoke volumes. 2 weeks passed. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy, Ben Tennyson appearing in multiple systems simultaneously, dismantling criminal organizations, neutralizing terrorist cells, deposing dictators, all with surgical precision and overwhelming force. On Koros, Tetramand warlords woke to find their weapon stockpiles transmuted to glass. On Aner Trancel, ZS Scare's latest attempt to escape the null void ended before it began when Ghost Freak, bearing an Omnitrix symbol, intercepted and captured him. On a dozen worlds, a dozen interventions, all occurring within the same 72-hour period. Resistance proved futile. How do you fight someone who can be everywhere, who can counter every ability, who knows your plans before you make them? Europa Station grew from nothing into a fortress within days, constructed by multiple jury rigs working in harmony, defended by automixes and way-bigs, monitored by brainstorms and gray matters. A new flag flew above it, the Omnitrix symbol on a field of green. In Plumber headquarters, the emergency council convened, representatives from 24 worlds, all expressing the same concern: Ben Tennyson had gone rogue. He's established himself as judge, jury, and executioner across sovereign systems, the Galvan representative argued. No single being should wield such authority. Yet his interventions have been largely beneficial, the Uxorite council member countered. Crime rates have plummeted. Refugee crises resolved. Conflicts ended. Through force and fear, Max Tennyson said grimly. That's not peace, it's subjugation. Gwen sat silently beside him, watching the debate rage. Part of her wanted to defend Ben. He was stopping threats, saving lives, establishing order where chaos had reigned. Another part recognized the dangerous path he walked. Power without accountability. Justice without process. Security without consent. Her communicator vibrated, an encrypted message from an unknown source. Curiosity overriding caution, Gwen discreetly checked it. Coordinates. Nothing more. A trap? Possibly. But Gwen had spent years trusting her cousin. Despite everything, that trust didn't vanish overnight. I need some air, she told her grandfather, slipping from the council room before he could question her. Using her anodite abilities, Gwen teleported to the coordinates, a small, nondescript apartment in the outskirts of Bellwood. The door stood ajar, inviting entry. Inside, Ben waited, the real Ben, human Ben, sitting alone on a sparse couch, looking even more exhausted than before. Thanks for coming, he said softly. Gwen maintained her distance, mana energy crackling subtly around her fingertips. Why all the secrecy? Because I can't be seen publicly doubting, Ben explained. Not with what's coming. And what exactly is coming, Ben? Ben leaned forward, elbows on knees. Something consuming stars at the edge of the galaxy. Something ancient and hungry. Vex calls it the Chronivore. Gwen frowned. And you believe this Vex person? The same one who pushed you to break the Omnitrix. I verified the stellar anomalies independently, Ben said. Whatever it is, it's real. And it's heading toward populated systems. So this whole dictator routine, it's preparation for this threat. Ben laughed humorlessly. Partly. But I won't lie to you, Gwen. I meant what I said about changing the approach. The old ways weren't working. And these new ways are. Gwen challenged. You look terrible, Ben. How many aliens are you maintaining right now? 17, Ben admitted, rubbing his temples. Across 9 systems. It's manageable. Asmoth says it's killing you. Asmoth says a lot of things. Ben stood, pacing restlessly. He never wanted me to have the Omnitrix in the first place, remember? Always thought I'd misuse it. Maybe he was right. Is that what this is? Gwen asked quietly. Misuse? Ben stopped, staring out the window at Bellwood's skyline, still damaged from Vilgax's attack. I don't know anymore. It started as clarity. Purpose. Now. He trailed off. Now what? Now I'm not always sure which thoughts are mine, Ben admitted. 17 different minds, 17 different perspectives. Sometimes they disagree. Gwen stepped closer, concern overriding caution. Then stop. Come home. Let us help you face this Chronivore together. It's too late for that. Ben turned back to her, eyes haunted. I've made too many enemies. Displaced too many power structures. If I show weakness now, everything collapses. So what do you want from me? Understanding, Ben said simply. And a promise. What promise? That if I go too far, if I become something I shouldn't, you'll stop me. His voice hardened. Whatever it takes. Gwen stared at her cousin, the boy she'd grown up with, the hero she'd fought alongside, now asking her to potentially become his executioner. That's not fair, Ben. None of this is fair, he replied. Julie's death wasn't fair. The constant threats to Earth aren't fair. The limitations Azimuth built into the Omnitrix weren't fair. We're past fair, Gwen. Before she could respond, Ben winced, hand going to his head. I have to go. One of my forms has detected something. Ben, wait, green light flashed, and Ben split into two forms, his human self and Portaler. The alien opened a gateway, and Ben stepped through, leaving Gwen alone in the empty apartment. She stood silently for several minutes, processing the encounter. The Ben she'd spoken to still existed, still doubted, still cared what she thought. That meant something. That meant hope. Her communicator beeped, Max, wondering where she'd gone. Gwen took a deep breath and teleported back to Plumber headquarters. She arrived in the middle of chaos. Alarms blared, agents rushed in all directions, and on the main screen loomed a familiar face, Vilgax. Demands non-negotiable, the warlord was saying. Tennyson will surrender himself and the Omnitrix within 24 hours, or Earth burns. Max noticed Gwen's return. Where were you? Doesn't matter, Gwen replied, nodding toward the screen. What's his play? Revenge, Max said grimly. He's allied with half a dozen of Ben's old enemies, Egregor, Kyber, Albedo, others. They've formed a coalition specifically to take Ben down. They're suicidal, Kevin remarked, joining them. Ben can be in multiple places at once now. How do they expect to win? As if answering, Vilgax continued, we know about Tennyson's new trick, maintaining multiple transformations. We've prepared accordingly. The camera panned to reveal a massive device pulsing with energy. This neural disruptor operates on a frequency that targets the Omnitrix's transformation matrix. One blast, and all of Tennyson's forms collapse simultaneously. His consciousness, stretched across multiple bodies, will shatter. Gwen's blood ran cold. They're going to kill him. They're going to try, Rook corrected. But Ben has been careful to keep his human form hidden. They would need to find it first. Unless they can bait him into a trap, Max realized. Force him to commit his primary consciousness. On screen, Vilgax smiled as if hearing their conversation. To ensure Tennyson's cooperation, we've taken precautions. The camera shifted again, revealing a group of prisoners, Mr. and Mrs. Tennyson, Ben's parents. Mom and Dad, Gwen whispered. 24 hours, Tennyson, Vilgax repeated. You for them. Decide. The transmission cut, leaving the headquarters in stunned silence. We need to contact Ben, Max said, already moving toward the communication station. No need, a voice called from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Ben standing there, not an alien form, but Ben himself, expression cold and focused. You got the message? Gwen asked. Every Ben did, he replied, voice unnervingly flat. Across the galaxy. 17 different forms, all receiving Vilgax's threat simultaneously. It's a trap, Kevin stated the obvious. Of course it is, Ben agreed, approaching the central table. And I'm going to spring it. But not alone. He placed his hand on the holographic interface, bringing up schematics of Vilgax's ship, detailed internal layouts, security protocols, crew movements. Information no outsider should have. How did you get this? Rook asked, impressed despite himself. I've had Chameleon infiltrating Vilgax's operation for weeks, Ben explained. Ever since Bellwood. I knew he'd be back. You've been planning for this, Gwen realized. Ben nodded. Vilgax made a mistake. He thinks capturing my parents forces my hand. Forces me to act emotionally. A cold smile crossed his face. He's right. But not in the way he expects. The ruthless efficiency in Ben's voice sent chills down Gwen's spine. This wasn't the cousin who'd been vulnerable in that apartment. This was something else, someone else. What's your plan? Max asked. Ben's eyes glinted. To end this. Permanently. The next 18 hours were a flurry of preparation. Ben coordinated with the plumbers, laying out a multi-stage attack plan that utilized every resource available. Despite their reservations about his recent actions, none could deny his tactical brilliance. The neural disruptor is the primary threat, Ben explained, highlighting the device in the holographic display. It needs to be neutralized before I can engage directly. My team can handle that, Kevin volunteered. Get us aboard, and we'll wreck it. No, Ben said firmly. Too risky. I have another approach. He turned to Gwen. I need your help for this part. What do you need? A spell that can temporarily sever my connection to the Omnitrix, Ben said. Just long enough to get past their sensors. Gwen frowned. That's dangerous, Ben. The Omnitrix is biologically integrated with you now. Severing it, even temporarily, could kill me, Ben finished. I know. But it's the only way to get close enough. There has to be another option, Max argued. Ben shook his head. Vilgax is expecting me to come in with overwhelming force, multiple aliens attacking simultaneously. That's what the disruptor is designed to counter. He's not expecting Ben Tennyson, powerless and alone. Because that would be suicide, Kevin pointed out. Not if I have backup. Ben looked around the room. That's where all of you come in. As the final hours ticked down, Gwen found Ben alone in the weapons room, staring at his reflection in a polished shield. Having second thoughts, she asked. 17th thoughts, Ben replied with a ghost of his old humor. Maintaining multiple forms changes you, Gwen. Each alien species thinks differently, processes emotions differently. What seems logical to Brainstorm feels cold to Swampfire. What feels necessary to Wrath seems brutal to Pesky Dust. And what feels right to Ben Tennyson? Gwen asked quietly. Ben turned to face her. That's what scares me. I'm not sure I remember. Gwen placed a hand on his shoulder. Then let me remind you. You've always put others first. You've always tried to find another way besides violence. You've always believed people can change, can be better. And look where that got me, Ben said bitterly. Look where it got Julie. Julie loved you because of those qualities, not despite them, Gwen insisted. She wouldn't want you to lose yourself seeking revenge. Ben was silent for a long moment. It's not just revenge anymore, Gwen. It's purpose. For the first time, I can see a path to lasting peace. Real security. At what cost? Whatever necessary. Gwen studied her cousin, the dark circles under his eyes, the tension in his jaw, the hardness that hadn't been there before. And after Vilgax? After you've gotten your revenge? What then? Then the real work begins, Ben said. The Chronivore is coming. Preparing the galaxy for that threat requires unity, cooperation. Things that don't happen naturally. Things you'll force. Things I'll facilitate, Ben corrected. By whatever means required. Gwen recognized the finality in his tone. This wasn't a debate, it was a declaration. Ben had made his choice. The question remained whether he was walking a path of salvation or destruction, for himself and for the universe. The deadline arrived. Vilgax's flagship hovered in Earth orbit, weapon systems powered but inactive, a show of restraint that fooled no one. Flanking it were the vessels of his coalition, Agregor's cruiser, Kyber's hunter ship, Albedo's modified Galvan craft, and half a dozen others. In the Plumber Headquarters Command Center, Ben stood before the main view screen, Omnitrix glowing softly on his wrist. "Ready?" Gwen asked, spellbook in hand. Ben nodded. "Do it." Gwen began chanting in the arcane language of Anodites, her eyes glowing with mana energy. The spell was complex, dangerous, temporarily severing a bond that had become fundamental to Ben's existence. As the final words left her lips, energy surged from her hands to envelop Ben. The Omnitrix sputtered, its green glow dimming to near darkness. Ben gasped, staggering as the connection weakened. "It worked," he managed, voice strained. "I can't feel the other forms." "The spell will last 6 hours," Gwen explained. "After that, the connection re-establishes automatically." Ben straightened, adjusting to the sensation of singular consciousness for the first time in weeks. "Long enough." Max stepped forward, embracing his grandson tightly. "Be careful." "I will," Ben promised. Then, more softly, "Whatever happens, remember I did what I thought was right." The words carried a finality that left everyone unsettled. The plan proceeded. A plumber transport delivered Ben, alone and seemingly powerless, to Vilgax's flagship. Scanner beams confirmed the Omnitrix's inactive state before Ben was permitted aboard. Vilgax himself waited in the command center, flanked by his coalition of enemies. The neural disruptor hummed ominously behind them, ready to activate at the first sign of transformation. "Tennyson," Vilgax greeted, satisfaction evident in his voice. "Surrendering yourself to save your family. How predictably sentimental." Ben stood before them, unarmed and vulnerable in appearance. "Where are my parents?" "Safe," Vilgax replied. "For now." "Show me," Ben demanded. Vilgax gestured, and a screen activated, showing Carl and Sandra Tennyson in a holding cell. They appeared unharmed but frightened. "Satisfied?" Vilgax asked mockingly. Ben nodded. "Release them, and I'm yours." "Oh, you're mine regardless," Vilgax corrected. "But I am a being of my word." He signaled to a subordinate. "Release the prisoners to the plumber vessel." Albedo stepped forward, eyeing the dormant Omnitrix with naked greed. "And that becomes mine, as agreed." "After I've confirmed it's genuine," Vilgax amended. Ben's lips curled in a cold smile. "You're welcome to try." Something in his tone gave Vilgax pause. The warlord studied Ben more carefully, noting his calm demeanor, his unwavering gaze. This was not a defeated enemy. This was something else. "Activate the disruptor," Vilgax ordered suddenly. "Full power." The machine hummed to life, waves of energy washing over Ben, who remained standing, expression unchanged. "Impossible," Gregor hissed. Unless the Omnitrix is already deactivated," Ben confirmed. "Hard to disrupt a connection that isn't there." Vilgax's eyes narrowed. "You came truly powerless?" "Why?" "To see all of you in one place," Ben replied. "To finish this, once and for all." "With what power?" Kyber scoffed. "You're alone and defenseless." "Am I?" Ben glanced at his wrist as the Omnitrix suddenly flared back to life, its glow intensifying. "Gwen's spell was impressive, but it never actually severed my connection. It just masked it." Understanding dawned on Vilgax's face a moment too late. "The disruptor is designed to target Omnitrix transformation energy," Ben finished. "Energy I haven't been using for the past hour." The Omnitrix pulsed, and Ben transformed, not into a single alien, but expanding outward, his consciousness flowing back through connections that had never truly been severed. Across the galaxy, every Ben form responded simultaneously, abandoning their tasks, opening portals, converging on a single location, Vilgax's flagship. The command center erupted in chaos as portals opened throughout the room. Humungosaur, Diamondhead, Heat Blast, Gravitack, alien after alien emerging, surrounding the coalition. "Kill him." Vilgax roared, lunging forward. But Ben had planned for this moment meticulously. Each enemy found themselves countered by the perfect alien counter. Gregor faced feedback, his energy absorption useless. Kyber confronted Wildmutt, his predator whistles ineffective against a form whose hearing had been modified. Albedo attacked Brainstorm, only to find his Galvan intelligence outmatched. And Vilgax faced Ben himself, transformed into a new alien form none had seen before. Towering, crystalline yet fluid, pulsing with energy that seemed to bend reality around it. What is this? Vilgax demanded, backing away for the first time in living memory. I call it paradox, Ben replied, voice reverberating with power. Azimuth locked this DNA sample away, claimed it was too dangerous. He was right. The battle was swift and devastating. Ben's coordination across multiple forms was perfect, each alien anticipating the other's moves, working in harmony impossible for separate individuals. Within minutes, the coalition lay defeated, their weapons destroyed, their forces scattered or captured. Only Vilgax remained standing, battered but defiant. You think this changes anything, Tennyson? I'll return. I always return. Not this time, Ben replied, his paradox form shimmering as it approached. I've spent weeks studying time stream manipulation. Learning how fixed points work. Creating new ones. Fear flickered across Vilgax's face for the first time. What are you saying? I'm saying goodbye, Vilgax. Ben raised a crystalline hand. Permanently. Energy surged between them, not attacking Vilgax directly but encircling him, creating a temporal bubble that pulsed with increasing intensity. What are you doing? Vilgax demanded, panic entering his voice. Placing you outside the time stream, Ben explained calmly. Not dead. Not imprisoned. Simply, removed from the equation. A moment in time, frozen eternally, accessible to no one. You can't do this. Vilgax raged, hammering against the bubble as it contracted. This violates every law of, I make the laws now, Ben interrupted, his multiple forms speaking in unison throughout the room. That's what none of you understood. I'm not just changing tactics. I'm changing reality. The bubble collapsed, and Vilgax vanished, not with an explosion or cry, but with a quiet ripple, as if he had never existed. Silence fell across the command center. Ben's forms converged, merging back into his paradox body, then shifting to human form. He surveyed the defeated enemies, the destroyed neural disruptor, the captured flagship. Send a message, he instructed the nearest form. To every system, every planet, every potential threat. Vilgax is gone. Not defeated, erased. Anyone who threatens peace faces the same fate. As the coalition members were taken into custody by Plumber forces, Ben stood alone at the viewport, staring at Earth below. A planet he'd defended countless times, a home he'd nearly lost repeatedly. Never again. The Omnitrix pulsed on his wrist, its glow different now, deeper, more intense. Ben closed his eyes, feeling his consciousness expand outward, reconnecting with forms across the galaxy. Each alien an extension of himself, each perspective adding to a growing conviction. The old ways were over. The cycle of attack and response, victory and return, broken forever. In its place would rise something new. Something permanent. A peace enforced by omnipresence, by the ability to be everywhere, see everything, control everyone. For the greater good. For protection. For Julie. Across the stars, Ben Tennyson's many forms resumed their work, establishing outposts, monitoring threats, enforcing his will. No longer just Earth's defender but the galaxy's ruler. The universe's greatest hero had become something else entirely. The universe's greatest villain had begun his reign. Chapter 2, The New Regime. 6 months passed like wildfire through a drought-stricken forest. The transformation of Earth happened so gradually that most people barely registered the shift until it was complete. First came the security drones, sleek, green machines patrolling city streets. Then the scanning checkpoints at transportation hubs. Next, the mandatory ID chips. Each step presented as necessary protection against ongoing alien threats. No one questioned who controlled it all. Omnitrix Central rose from the ashes of Bellwood, a gleaming tower of green and black that stretched nearly a mile into the sky. The structure hadn't been built so much as grown, the work of multiple upgrade forms merging with existing buildings, expanding outward and upward until the city's downtown disappeared beneath the massive complex. Inside the command center at its peak, Kevin Levin stood before an observation window, watching transport ships dock at the building's mid-levels. Another batch of volunteers, he muttered, making air quotes with his fingers. Beside him, Rook Blanco maintained a neutral expression. The Galactic Expansion Initiative requires significant personnel. Kevin shot him a sideways glance. Drop the act, Rook. It's just us here. Rook's shoulders slumped slightly, his composure cracking. The surveillance systems are looped for the next 3 minutes, Kevin finished, tapping a device on his wrist. One of the few perks of being Chief Security Officer, I know where the blind spots are. That is extremely dangerous, Rook admonished, though relief showed in his eyes. If Ben were to discover, which Ben? Kevin interrupted with a bitter laugh. There are 30 of him now? Spread across 17 systems. 34, Rook corrected automatically. The latest deployment was to the Andromeda Galaxy yesterday. Kevin shook his head. And you're still keeping count. Loyal to the end. I am loyal to my friend, Rook replied quietly. The real Ben Tennyson. The real Ben hasn't been seen in months, Kevin said, turning back to the window. Not since he started calling himself Omnilord. The title had appeared almost overnight, first in official communications, then in news reports, finally in everyday conversation. No one used Ben 10 anymore. No one dared. Have you heard from Gwen? Rook asked, voice barely above a whisper. Kevin's jaw tightened. Not directly. The Resistance changes communication protocols weekly. Then how do you pass information? Dead drops. Coded messages. Old school spy craft. Kevin glanced at his wrist device. 30 seconds left before the loop resets. Anything urgent? Rook hesitated, then reached into his pocket and produced a small data chip. The deployment schedules for the next month. Patrol routes. Access codes for the detention centers on Europa. Kevin took the chip, concealing it in his palm. Thanks. This will help. It is treason, Rook said flatly. Only if you believe Ben has legitimate authority over the galaxy, Kevin countered. And you do not. Do you? Before Rook could answer, the door to the command center slid open. Both men straightened immediately, composures shifting to professional neutrality. Arjit entered, his spiny form draped in the black and green uniform of Omnitrix Central Staff. The rodent-like alien had adapted to the new regime with predictable opportunism, becoming one of Ben's intelligence officers. Levin, Blanco, he greeted with a too-wide smile. The boss wants you both in the throne room. Like, now. Kevin raised an eyebrow. Throne room? Since when does Central have a throne room? Since yesterday, Arjit replied with a nervous chuckle. And between you and me, it's impressive. In a terrifying, megalomaniacal kind of way. Kevin and Rook exchanged glances. 6 months of working within Ben's regime had taught them to expect surprises, but this seemed excessive even by recent standards. Did he say why? Rook asked as they followed Arjit down a corridor. Nope, and I didn't ask, Arjit replied. Rule 1 of survival under the new management, don't question the guy who can be 34 different aliens at once. They descended through levels of increasing security, passing checkpoints where DNA scanners confirmed their identities at each stage. The deeper sections of Omnitrix Central remained mysteries even to high-ranking officers like Kevin and Rook. Rumors circulated about experimental laboratories, detention centers for enemies of peace, and chambers where Ben communed with his various forms across the galaxy. Finally, they reached a massive set of doors emblazoned with the Omnitrix symbol. The doors slid open silently, revealing a space that hadn't existed the day before. The throne room was a vast chamber with walls that seemed to shift between solid matter and energy fields. The ceiling displayed a real-time hologram of star systems under Ben's control, nearly a quarter of the known galaxy, glowing green to indicate his presence. At the center stood not a throne but a hovering platform surrounded by 10 alien forms, each bearing the Omnitrix symbol, each perfectly still. And above them all floated Ben himself, or something that had once been Ben. His form flickered between human and alien, never fully settling on either, a constant state of partial transformation that seemed both painful and powerful. Kevin. Rook. Ben's voice echoed strangely, as if multiple voices spoke in imperfect synchronization. Thank you for coming. Kevin forced himself not to react to the grotesque display. Nice redecorating. Going for the subtle tyrant look. Two of the alien forms, Wrath and Heatblast, tensed at the disrespect, but Ben himself smiled. The expression looked wrong on his half-transformed face. Your honesty remains refreshing, Ben said. Everyone else is too afraid to speak their minds. Can't imagine why, Kevin muttered, eyeing the surrounding aliens. Ben descended to their level, his form stabilizing somewhat into mostly human with patches of alien characteristics, an arm of diamond head crystal, eyes glowing like NRG, skin partially covered in Swampfire's plant matter. I've called you here because we've reached a critical juncture, Ben explained, gesturing to the star map above. The chronivore has accelerated its consumption pattern. The hologram shifted to show a distant section of the galaxy where stars winked out one by one, leaving nothing but darkness. The entity has devoured 3 star systems in the past week, Rook observed, professional interest overriding his discomfort. That is significantly faster than previous patterns. Which means we need to accelerate our timeline, Ben said. The galactic unification must be completed within 3 months, not 6. Kevin crossed his arms. And by unification, you mean total subjugation of all remaining independent worlds. I mean protection, Ben corrected, his voice hardening. The chronivore cannot be fought by divided forces. The galaxy must act as one, under one leadership, one vision, one will. Yours, Kevin said flatly. Mine, Ben confirmed without hesitation. I've demonstrated the effectiveness of my approach. Crime rates down 87% in controlled systems. Poverty reduced by 62%. Technological advancement accelerated by decades. And personal freedom reduced to 0, Kevin added. Ben's expression didn't change, but the alien forms surrounding them shifted subtly, moving into more aggressive stances. Freedom to what, Kevin? To suffer. To die when the chronivore comes. Ben gestured, and the hologram zoomed in on a system being consumed. This entity doesn't negotiate. Doesn't show mercy. It simply devours everything in its path. Convenient threat, Kevin remarked. Makes it easy to justify extreme measures. For a moment, something flashed across Ben's face, anger, perhaps, or hurt. Then it was gone, replaced by cold determination. Your skepticism is noted, Ben said. But irrelevant to your assignment. Rook stepped forward slightly. What assignment would that be? Ben waved a hand, and the hologram shifted again, showing Earth's moon Europa. The resistance movement has established a base in the subsurface ocean. Your security forces will eliminate it. Kevin kept his expression carefully neutral, though his heart raced. Gwen was on Europa, he'd helped establish that base through leaked security protocols and blind spots in the patrol schedules. The resistance is hardly a priority compared to the chronivore, Kevin argued. They're just malcontents and idealists. They're becoming more than that, Ben replied. Our intelligence suggests they've contacted Azimuth. That makes them an existential threat. Rook frowned. Azimuth has been missing since your transformation. How could they contact him? That's what you're going to find out. Ben turned his back to them, floating upward again. You leave in 6 hours. Take whatever forces you need. And if we find Gwen? Kevin asked, unable to help himself. Ben paused, his form flickering more violently for a moment. When he spoke, his voice sounded more like the old Ben, just for an instant. Bring her to me. Unharmed. The audience was clearly over. As they turned to leave, Ben's voice stopped them again, but different now, colder, more mechanical. One more thing. There appears to be an information leak within Central Command. Security protocols, patrol schedules, access codes, all finding their way to resistance forces. Kevin forced himself to breathe normally. Beside him, Rook stood perfectly still. Find the traitor, Ben ordered. I want them brought to me personally. Will do, Kevin replied, not trusting himself to say more. As the doors closed behind them, Arjit fell into step, clearly having waited outside. So, the rodent-like alien prompted. How bad is it? We're hunting the resistance on Europa, Kevin replied loudly enough for any listening devices to pick up. And tracking down a traitor in Central. Ouch, Arjit winced. Glad it's you two and not me. The boss has been unstable lately. Word is he's staying in transformation longer and longer. Some say he hasn't been fully human in weeks. Rumors, Rook said stiffly, though his eyes told a different story. They parted ways with Arjit at a security checkpoint, continuing toward the hangar bay in silence until they reached another surveillance blind spot. This is bad, Kevin muttered once they were clear. If Ben suspects a leak, he suspects but does not know, Rook interrupted. Otherwise, we would already be in detention cells. Small comfort, Kevin replied, running a hand through his hair. We need to warn them. The Europa base isn't fully operational yet. Rook nodded. I can delay the deployment preparations by approximately 3 hours. Will that be sufficient? It'll have to be. Kevin checked his wrist device. I need to get to communications. Meet at the shuttle in 5 hours. Kevin, Rook said, stopping him with a hand on his arm. If it comes to a direct confrontation between Ben and Gwen. The question hung in the air, impossible to answer. Let's hope it doesn't, Kevin finally said. 1,000 miles beneath Europa's ice crust, Gwen Tennyson sat cross-legged in a chamber carved from the moon's rocky core. Mana energy pulsed around her, illuminating ancient symbols etched into the walls. You're sure this will work? Max Tennyson asked, watching his granddaughter with concern. After 6 months in hiding, the former plumber magistrate looked older, wearier, the strain of opposing his own grandson etched into every line on his face. No, Gwen admitted, opening her eyes. But we're running out of options. The resistance had grown from a handful of dissenters to a movement spanning multiple worlds, united by a common cause, stopping Ben Tennyson before his protection consumed the entire galaxy. Their base on Europa represented their greatest achievement and biggest risk, hidden in the subsurface ocean of Jupiter's moon, powered by geothermal vents, shielded from detection by a combination of technology and Gwen's magic. But they all knew it was only a matter of time before Ben found them. Azimuth is our best hope, Gwen continued, rising to her feet. He created the Omnitrix. He might know how to shut it down remotely. If he's still alive, Max said grimly. Ben's forces have been hunting him for months. He's alive, a new voice stated with conviction. They turned to see Cooper Daniels entering the chamber, his technopath abilities having transformed him into something more machine than human. Metal components integrated with his skin, eyes glowing with data streams. My quantum entanglement communicator just received a signal, Cooper explained. Coded in original Galvan mathematics. It has to be him. Hope flickered across Max's face. What did he say? That's the problem, Cooper replied, projecting a hologram of complex equations and symbols. It's heavily encrypted, beyond even my capabilities to decode fully. But I've extracted the basics. He's found something called the Omnitrix failsafe protocol and needs specific components to activate it. A kill switch, Gwen translated. Something that would shut down the Omnitrix permanently. Or possibly just reset it to factory settings, Cooper added. Either way, it's the first real chance we've had to stop Ben without. He didn't finish the sentence. None of them wanted to acknowledge the alternative, that stopping Ben might require more permanent solutions. Where is Azimuth now? Max asked. That's the other problem, Cooper said. Based on signal triangulation, he's on Galvan Prime, which fell under Ben's control 2 months ago. Gwen's eyes widened. He's hiding on his homeworld. Right under Ben's nose. Apparently in the ancient catacombs beneath the surface, Cooper confirmed. But the components he needs aren't there. They're scattered across 3 worlds, all under Ben's control. Max's expression hardened with resolve. Then we mount extraction operations. Simultaneously, to prevent Ben from focusing his forces. We don't have the numbers, Gwen pointed out. We'd need inside help, coordination with our agents in Ben's regime, perfect timing. An alarm blared through the base, cutting her off. Red emergency lights flashed as a voice announced over the comm system, perimeter breach. Multiple hostiles approaching through the northern ice tunnels. How? Max demanded, already moving toward the command center. Our shielding should have prevented detection. They rushed through corridors carved from Europa's rocky mantle, passing resistance members preparing defense positions. The command center buzzed with activity as operators tracked the approaching threat. It's a full-scale assault, reported Helen Wheels, her kineceleran speed allowing her to process multiple data streams simultaneously. At least 50 plumber-class vessels, plus, something else. Something big. The main screen showed a massive object descending through Europa's ice, a drilling platform nearly half a mile wide, bearing the unmistakable Omnitrix symbol. They found us, Gwen whispered. But how? The answer arrived with the next transmission, a familiar face appearing on the communication screen. Attention Resistance Forces, Kevin announced formally. This is Chief Security Officer Kevin Levin of Omnitrix Central. You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender peacefully, and you will be treated according to galactic law. Max stepped forward. Kevin. What is the meaning of this? Kevin's expression remained neutral, though his eyes conveyed a different message. Magistrate Tennyson. By order of Omnilord Tennyson, you and all resistance personnel are to surrender immediately or face maximum response. Gwen understood instantly. Kevin was playing his role while trying to warn them. We need to evacuate, she said quietly to Max, now. Max nodded slightly. Tell your Omnilord that we reject his authority and his offer, he replied loudly for the benefit of any listening on Kevin's end. Then you leave me no choice, Kevin responded. You have 10 minutes before we breach your main facility. The transmission cut off. 10 minutes, Gwen repeated. That's more than standard protocol allows. He's giving us time. Not much, Max said grimly. Initiate evacuation protocol Omega. Essential personnel and data only. The command center erupted into controlled chaos as resistance members rushed to secure critical information and equipment. Gwen turned to Cooper. The azimuth data, already secured, he confirmed, tapping his temple where cybernetic components stored the information. But we still need an extraction plan for those components. First we need to survive this, Gwen replied, her hands already glowing with mana energy. Get to the escape shuttles. I'll buy us time. Gwen, Max started to protest. I'm the only one who can slow them down, she cut him off. Go, Grandpa. I'll be right behind you. Reluctance written across his face, Max nodded and followed Cooper toward the evacuation point. Gwen moved in the opposite direction, toward the expected breach point. She reached a large cavern that served as the base's main entrance, where a dozen resistance fighters had established defensive positions. Above them, the ice ceiling groaned and cracked as the massive drill bore downward. "Fall back," Gwen ordered the defenders. "Get to the shuttles." "Ma'am," one questioned. "That's an order," Gwen insisted. "This isn't a battle we can win. Save yourselves for the fights that matter." As they retreated, Gwen raised her hands, summoning her full power. Since Ben's transformation, she had pushed her anodite abilities further than ever before, drawing deeper on her alien heritage. Her hair floated upward, glowing with violet energy as her eyes blazed with mana. The ceiling exploded inward, ice and rock raining down as the massive drill breached the cavern. Through the opening poured Ben's forces, plumbers loyal to the new regime, security drones, and leading them, Rook Blanco in full battle armor. Gwen unleashed a wave of mana energy that swept the first wave back, buying precious seconds. "Hello, Rook," she called out. "Nice of you to drop by." Rook's expression remained professional, though regret showed in his eyes. "Gwendolyn. Please surrender. This does not need to become violent." "It already has," Gwen replied, gesturing around them. The moment Ben decided to rule rather than protect. More forces poured through the breach, including several aliens bearing Omnitrix symbols, extensions of Ben's consciousness in remote bodies. "Is he here himself?" Gwen asked, maintaining her mana shield as weapons fire peppered it. "Or just his puppets?" "Ben wishes to speak with you," Rook said, ignoring her question. "He has given explicit orders that you not be harmed." "How considerate of my cousin," Gwen replied sarcastically. "And the others?" Rook's silence was answer enough. Gwen's eyes narrowed as she gathered more power. "Then I guess we're done talking." The mana shield expanded suddenly, surging outward with enough force to send Rook and the frontline troops flying backward. Gwen followed it with targeted blasts that collapsed sections of the ice ceiling, temporarily blocking the breach. Then she ran. The evacuation tunnel stretched through Europa's rocky mantle, leading to hidden launch bays where escape vehicles waited. Gwen sprinted through them, using her powers to collapse passages behind her, slowing the pursuit. She rounded a corner and collided with Kevin. "Whoa!" he exclaimed, steadying her. "Cutting it kind of close." "Kevin?" Gwen gasped. "What are you doing here?" "If they see you, they won't," he assured her, pulling her into a service tunnel. "I split from Rook's team as soon as we breached. We have maybe 2 minutes before someone notices I'm gone." "The evacuation, nearly complete," Kevin confirmed. "But you need to know something. Ben suspects there's a leak in Central Command. He's hunting for informants." Gwen's eyes widened. "You and Rook need to disappear. Now. Come with us." Kevin shook his head. "We're more valuable inside the system. Besides, Ben doesn't have proof, just suspicion." "That might be enough," Gwen argued. "He's changed, Kevin." "The Ben we knew, is still in there," Kevin interrupted. "Sometimes, when he's not paying attention, I see glimpses of him. The real him, fighting to get out." Gwen wanted desperately to believe that, but the past 6 months had shown little evidence. "Has he said anything about the chronovore?" "It's accelerating," Kevin reported. "Consuming stars faster than before. Ben's using it to justify faster expansion, harsher measures. And..." He hesitated. "What?" "He's not alone in Central anymore," Kevin said quietly. "That alien, Vex, he's there all the time now. Always whispering in Ben's ear." Gwen frowned. "Ben mentioned him once, right after Julie died. Said Vex showed him how to bypass the Omnitrix protocols." "Well, he's moved up to senior advisor," Kevin said. "And there's something off about him. The way he looks at Ben sometimes, like..." He struggled to find the words. Like a farmer checking if the crop is ready for harvest. A distant explosion interrupted them. The pursuit was getting closer. I have to go, Kevin said urgently, pressing something into Gwen's hand, a small data chip. New security protocols for Central. Access codes. Deployment schedules. Kevin, it's too dangerous, he silenced her with a quick kiss. Be careful. And Gwen, we found out about the Europa base from intercepted communications. Someone in the Resistance is compromised. Before she could process this, Kevin stepped back. Now hit me. What? Hit me, he insisted. Hard enough to look convincing. I can't return without battle damage. Understanding, Gwen gathered a small amount of mana energy and blasted Kevin against the wall, hard enough to bruise but not seriously injure. Perfect, he groaned, sliding to the floor. Now go. Gwen hesitated for a split second, then turned and ran toward the evacuation point. Behind her, she could hear Kevin beginning to shout for backup, playing his role to perfection. The launch bay was in controlled chaos when she arrived, the last Resistance members boarding the final shuttle. Max stood at the ramp, relief washing over his face when he spotted her. Cutting it close, he admonished as they boarded together. Had to pick up a package, Gwen replied, showing him the data chip. The shuttle doors sealed, and the craft shot upward through a narrow ice tunnel, emerging from Europa's surface into the blackness of space. 5 other shuttles had already launched, scattering in different directions to confuse pursuit. As their vessel accelerated away from Jupiter, Gwen gazed back at the icy moon that had been their home. Plumber ships swarmed its surface like insects, the massive drill platform still half embedded in the ice. Where to now? She asked quietly. Max's expression was grim but determined. Azimuth's information points to 3 components needed for the failsafe. We split up, retrieve them simultaneously. And then? Then we save Ben from himself, Max said. One way or another. Deep within Omnitrix Central, in a chamber that existed in a state of quantum flux, partially in normal space, partially in a dimension of Ben's creation, the Omnilord communed with his extended selves. His consciousness stretched across light years, flowing through the neural network created by dozens of transformed bodies. Through Jetray's eyes, he watched the rings of a distant gas giant. Through Wildmutt's senses, he tracked movement in a dense jungle. Through Grey Matter's mind, he calculated complex equations in a laboratory on Galvan Prime. All simultaneously. All under his control. The strain had become manageable. The pain of consciousness division now a familiar background hum rather than the searing agony it had been months ago. His human form had become almost vestigial, an anchor point in the network, necessary but increasingly irrelevant. Your evolution progresses impressively, observed Vex, materializing from the shadows as was his habit. Ben's primary form, floating in the center of the chamber, suspended in a web of energy, no longer appeared fully human. His skin had taken on a greenish translucence, shot through with circuits of light that pulsed in rhythm with the Omnitrix symbol embedded in his chest. The resistance base has been neutralized, Ben stated, dozens of voices harmonizing into one. But Gwen escaped, along with the core leadership. As expected, Vex replied, circling Ben's suspended form. Your cousin has always been resourceful. They've contacted Azimuth, Ben continued, eyes closed in concentration as he processed information flowing from his extended network. They believe he's found a way to deactivate the Omnitrix remotely. Vex's expression didn't change, but a flicker of something, concern, perhaps, or calculation, passed behind his silver eyes. And has he? Unlikely, Ben replied. The Omnitrix has evolved beyond Azimuth's original parameters. Its integration with my consciousness has created something new. Something he couldn't have anticipated. Nevertheless, the first thinker is not to be underestimated, Vex cautioned. Perhaps it would be prudent to accelerate our timetable further. Ben's eyes opened, glowing with intense green light. Acceleration carries risks. The neural network requires time to stabilize fully. The chronivore doesn't grant the luxury of time, Vex reminded him, voice hardening slightly. It devours everything in its path, stars, planets, entire civilizations. Even now it accelerates. Because you know so much about it, Ben observed, a note of suspicion entering his harmonic voice. Vex smiled thinly. I have studied cosmic threats extensively. The chronivore is merely the latest in a long line of universal predators. Yet records of similar entities are suspiciously absent from even the Galvan archives, Ben noted. Almost as if it were unique. Or new. For the first time, Vex appeared momentarily discomfited. Not all knowledge is recorded, Omnilord. Some threats are so ancient they predate written history. Ben's form shifted, flickering between states of matter as his concentration divided. The Europa operation yielded unexpected data. Resistance communications indicate they're targeting 3 specific locations, all facilities under my control. For what purpose? Vex asked, seemingly relieved by the change of subject. Unknown, Ben admitted. But Asmatha's involvement suggests technology related to the Omnitrix. Then they must be stopped, Vex declared. Immediately and permanently. Ben's expression became distant as he communed with his extended selves. Forces are already being redirected to the identified locations. The resistance will find themselves outmatched. And Gwendolyn? Vex inquired. Your orders regarding her remain problematic. My cousin is not to be harmed, Ben stated flatly. She will understand, eventually. Understand what, exactly, came a new voice, familiar, authoritative, disapproving. Both Ben and Vex turned to see Asmath standing at the chamber entrance, or rather, a hologram of the Galvan inventor, flickering but distinct. How did you penetrate my security? Ben demanded, his form solidifying as he focused on the intrusion. I created the Omnitrix, Asmath reminded him. Did you think I wouldn't build backdoors into its communication systems? Systems you've now integrated throughout your network. Ben descended from his suspended position, approaching the hologram. Up close, he looked even less human, his body a shifting amalgamation of alien characteristics, held together by sheer will and Omnitrix energy. You've been hiding, Ben accused. While I saved the galaxy from itself. I've been working, Asmath corrected. To save you from yourself. I don't need saving, Ben replied coldly. I've transcended the limitations you built into both me and the Omnitrix. What you've done, Asmath said, is allowed yourself to be manipulated by entities beyond your understanding. His gaze shifted pointedly to Vex. The silver-eyed alien stepped forward. First thinker. Your reputation precedes you. As does yours, Asmath replied, Chronarch. Vex stiffened, his fluid movements suddenly arrested. What did you call him? Ben asked, glancing between them. His true designation, Asmath explained. The Chronarchs are extradimensional entities that feed on temporal energy, specifically, the energy released when timelines are forcibly altered. Lies, Vex hissed, his form rippling slightly to reveal something else beneath the humanoid appearance, something angular and crystalline. The chronivore isn't some random cosmic threat, Asmath continued, addressing Ben directly. It's a manifestation of temporal disruption you caused when you began altering fixed points in the timeline. Vilgax, Ben whispered, understanding dawning. The first major alteration, Asmath confirmed. By removing him from the time stream entirely, you created a fracture, a wound in reality that bleeds temporal energy. The chronivore feeds on that wound, growing stronger with each additional alteration you make. Ben turned to Vex, eyes narrowing. Is this true? Vex's form flickered again, the facade of smooth humility falling away. The specifics are irrelevant. What matters is the solution, complete neural integration across the galaxy. A single consciousness governing all sentient life, creating a stable temporal anchor. And conveniently providing an unprecedented feast of temporal energy when billions of minds are forcibly merged, Azimuth added. Enough to sustain the chronarchs for eons. Ben's expression darkened, the Omnitrix symbol on his chest pulsing erratically. You used me. I guided you, Vex corrected, abandoning pretense entirely. His form shifted fully now, revealing a crystalline entity with multifaceted eyes and limbs that bent at impossible angles. Your grief, your anger, your desire for control, all existed before I arrived. I merely showed you the path to their fulfillment. While feeding the chronivore, Ben accused. While making it stronger with each act I took in its name. A necessary symbiosis, the creature that had been Vex replied. The chronivore consumes only what must be consumed to maintain temporal balance. Your actions demanded consequence. Ben laughed bitterly. And let me guess, the final stage of your guidance would have linked me directly to the chronivore, using the Omnitrix network as a conduit to every mind in the galaxy. The resulting temporal harvest would have been substantial, Vex admitted. But you would have achieved your goal of universal peace. Through universal enslavement to your kind, Ben finished. His form began to shift more violently, alien aspects emerging and receding as his anger grew. Get out. Vex tilted his crystalline head. You misunderstand your position, Omnilord. Our partnership is not optional at this stage. I said, Ben repeated, the Omnitrix symbol flaring blindingly bright, get out. Energy exploded outward from Ben's form, rippling through the chamber in waves of green fire. Vex shrieked, a sound like shattering glass, as the energy engulfed him, forcing his true form fully into this dimension. This changes nothing, the chronarch howled. The chronivore comes regardless. Your actions have consequences, Tennyson. Then I'll face them, Ben snarled, channeling more power through the Omnitrix. Vex's crystalline body cracked and splintered under the assault, fragments dissolving into shimmering dust that swirled like a miniature galaxy before vanishing entirely. Silence fell over the chamber. He's not dead, Azimuth observed. Merely banished back to his own dimension. Temporarily, Ben agreed, his form stabilizing somewhat, though still far from human. He turned to Azimuth's hologram. You knew. You knew what he was, what was happening. I suspected, Azimuth corrected. The chronarchs are largely theoretical even to Galvans. But when the stellar anomalies began precisely after your violation of temporal law, removing Vilgax from the time stream, Ben interrupted. Among other actions, Azimuth said pointedly. Your peacekeeping has involved dozens of similar temporal alterations. Each one feeding the chronivore. Each one making it stronger. Ben closed his eyes, absorbing this information. Through his extended consciousness, he could feel the truth of it, disturbances in the time stream centered on locations where he'd enacted his most extreme measures. Can it be stopped? He asked finally. Azimuth's expression was grave. The damage is extensive. The chronivore has grown beyond my calculations. Conventional methods would be insufficient. That's not what I asked. There is a protocol, Azimuth admitted reluctantly. A failsafe built into the original Omnitrix design. It would reset the device to its factory state, and potentially revert recent temporal alterations connected to it. Potentially saving everyone I've removed from the time stream, Ben translated. Potentially restoring Vilgax and the others. Yes, Azimuth confirmed. But also potentially healing the temporal wounds that feed the chronivore. Ben turned away, gazing at the neural web that connected him to his extended selves. And what happens to me? To this? He gestured to his transformed state. The connection would be severed, Azimuth said quietly. Your consciousness would revert to singular state. The multiple forms would cease to exist. I would lose everything I've built, Ben said, voice hollow. Everything I've become. You would regain everything you've lost, Azimuth countered. Your humanity. Your connection to others. Your true self. Ben laughed bitterly. My true self watched Julie die. My true self failed again and again to create lasting peace. Your true self understood that peace cannot be imposed, Azimuth replied. Only nurtured. Before Ben could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Emergency protocols activated as security breaches registered simultaneously across multiple systems. What's happening? Ben demanded, accessing the network directly through his consciousness. The answer came not from Azimuth but from the facility's AI, multiple intrusions detected. Resistance forces have penetrated security at Labs 7, 12, and 33. Unauthorized access to restricted technology in progress. Ben's eyes widened. The components for your failsafe. Azimuth's hologram flickered as if surprised. How did you? I can access every system, every database simultaneously, Ben reminded him. Including the one Cooper Daniels uploaded to after your communication. The Galvan's expression hardened. Then you know what's at stake. I know my cousin thinks she's saving me, Ben replied, already connecting more deeply to his extended network. But she doesn't understand what I've become, what I can do. What will you do? Azimuth asked quietly. Ben's form flickered as he prepared to divide his consciousness further, to deploy more aspects to counter the resistance attacks. What I must, he answered. What I've always done. Azimuth's hologram began to fade. Remember who you were, Ben Tennyson. Before it's too late. As the Galvan vanished, Ben rose into the neural web once more, his consciousness expanding outward across the network. Through dozens of eyes, he watched resistance forces infiltrating his facilities. Through dozens of minds, he calculated responses. And through his own fragmented soul, he wondered, for the first time in months, if he had made a terrible mistake. Lab 7, located beneath the ruins of Los Soledad, had once been a plumber research facility before Ben's regime repurposed it for Omnitrix-related experiments. Its defenses were formidable: automated turrets, DNA scanners, gravity wells, and a contingent of elite guards. None of which slowed Max Tennyson for long. Security bypassed, the former magistrate reported, disabling the final door lock. Despite his age, Max moved with precision and confidence born from decades of experience. We have 3 minutes before the system resets. Beside him, Helen Wills nodded, her blue-skinned Kinesillaran form tensed for action. The component should be in the central vault. Cooper's intel says it's a chronometric regulator, looks like a green crystal about the size of your fist. And heavily guarded, Max added, checking the energy charge on his modified plumber pistol. Stay alert. They moved through the darkened facility, passing laboratories filled with experimental technology, much of it derived from the Omnitrix. Max tried not to think about how his grandson had twisted so much potential for good into tools for control and dominance. The central vault loomed ahead, a massive door of reinforced neutronium alloy with an Omnitrix symbol at its center. How do we get through that? Helen whispered. Max retrieved a small device from his pocket. With this. Courtesy of Blukik and Dryba before they went into hiding. He placed the device against the vault door. It whirred softly, projecting an energy field that matched the Omnitrix's unique signature. Nothing happened. That should have worked, Max muttered, rechecking the device. It would have, came a voice from behind them, 6 months ago. They spun to find Humongousaur blocking the corridor, arms crossed over his massive chest. The Omnitrix symbol pulsed on his torso, and his eyes, unlike the normal version of the transformation, glowed with unnatural green light. Ben, Max acknowledged, keeping his weapon lowered. Grandpa, the transformed alien replied, voice deeper than usual but recognizably Ben's. You're breaking and entering. Into a facility built with stolen plumber technology, Max countered. On Earth, which you have no legal right to rule. Humongousaur smiled coldly. Legal rights change when you have the power to enforce new laws. That's not how justice works, Max replied. That's not what I taught you. Something flickered across the alien's face, a momentary softening, quickly suppressed. You taught me to protect people. That's what I'm doing. On a scale you never imagined possible. By controlling them. Monitoring their thoughts. Punishing dissent. By creating order from chaos, Humungosaur corrected. By eliminating threats before they manifest. By building a unified response to the chronivore. Max's eyes narrowed. So you know about that. I know it's connected to my actions, Ben admitted, surprising Max. I know Vex manipulated me. But that doesn't change the reality of the threat, or the necessity of my response. There's another way, Max urged, taking a step forward. Asmith's failsafe would undo everything I've accomplished, Ben interrupted. Release every threat I've contained. Return us to the endless cycle of attack and response. It would make you human again, Max said quietly. Ben looked down at his massive alien hands, flexing them thoughtfully. Am I not better than human now? More capable. More effective. More isolated, Max replied. More removed from what makes life worth protecting. When was the last time you felt joy, Ben? Or laughed? Or connected with another person without trying to control them? The question seemed to strike something deep within the transformed hero. For a moment, just a moment, uncertainty crossed Humungosaur's face. Then alarms blared. Breach in progress, Lab 12, announced the facility AI. Resistance forces have acquired target component. Ben's expression hardened instantly. Gwen, he growled. Always one step ahead. He turned his attention back to Max and Helen. I won't fight you, Grandpa. Not today. But I won't let you destroy everything I've built either. Before Max could respond, Humungosaur slammed his fist into the wall, triggering a localized collapse that blocked the corridor between them without harming his grandfather. We'll talk again, Ben's voice called through the rubble. When this is over. Max stared at the collapsed passage, emotions warring across his face. He's still in there, he said quietly. The real Ben. Helen placed a hand on his shoulder. But for how long? Lab 12, buried deep beneath Mount Rushmore, housed the more dangerous Omnitrix-related experiments. Unlike Los Soledad, its security relied less on technology and more on raw power, specifically, a contingent of Ben's transformed aspects standing eternal guard. Which made Gwen's approach particularly risky. This is insane, muttered Manny Armstrong, the four-armed Tetraman hybrid scanning the perimeter. 4 of Ben's alien forms against the 3 of us. 5 now, Gwen corrected, watching a new portal open in the facility's courtyard. Looks like Portaler just joined the party. Beside them, Alan Albright, his pyronite form glowing softly in the darkness, shook his head. We should retreat. Wait for backup. No time, Gwen replied. If Ben realized what we're after, he'll move the components. It's now or never. She studied the arrangement of alien guards, Diamondhead patrolling the east entrance, Feedback covering the power station, Big Chill hovering near the ventilation system, XLR-8 running periodic perimeter checks, and now Portaler maintaining a direct link to Ben's central consciousness. I need a distraction, Gwen decided. Something that will draw at least 3 of them away. Manny grinned, cracking his knuckles. Distraction is my middle name. I thought it was reckless endangerment, Alan quipped. That's my full middle name, Manny replied, already moving toward the facility's power generators. Give me 2 minutes, then hit the east entrance. Before Gwen could object, the Tetraman hybrid was gone, slipping between security sensors with surprising grace for someone his size. He's going to get himself killed, Alan whispered. Not if we time this right, Gwen replied, hands already glowing with mana energy. Get ready. Exactly 2 minutes later, the facility's power generators exploded in spectacular fashion, not destroyed, but definitely commanding attention. Alarms blared as emergency systems activated. Now. Gwen ordered. Alan transformed fully to his Pyronite form, unleashing a massive fireball toward the east entrance, not at Diamond Head directly, but at the security systems around him. As predicted, the crystalline alien moved to investigate, along with XLR-8 and Big Chill, leaving only Feedback and Portaler guarding the main building. Gwen activated the charm Charmcaster had given her, a one-time magical disguise that masked her mana signature. To Ben's aliens, she would register as a maintenance worker rather than herself. "Stay here," she instructed Alan. "If I'm not back in 10 minutes. We're coming in after you," he finished firmly. Gwen nodded, then slipped toward the main entrance, projecting an air of belonging as she approached. Feedback glanced at her, sensors scanning automatically. "Maintenance check," Gwen said calmly, showing a forged ID. "Security systems are glitching after the power surge." Feedback studied her for a moment, then nodded, returning to his vigilant stance. Gwen walked past, heart hammering in her chest, charm holding. Inside, the facility was eerily quiet, emergency lighting casting everything in red shadow. Gwen navigated through corridors she'd memorized from Kevin's stolen schematics, moving toward the central laboratory. The component, a quantum synchronizer necessary for Azimuth's failsafe, would be stored in a specialized containment unit, isolated from other technology to prevent interaction. According to Cooper's analysis, it would appear as a small disk of indeterminate material, constantly shifting between states of matter. Gwen reached the laboratory door without encountering resistance. Too easy, she thought, caution overwhelming relief. Ben would never leave this unguarded unless, "Hello, Gwen," came a voice from behind her. She turned slowly to find Ben, the real Ben, his human form altered but recognizable, standing in the corridor. He looked even less human than when she'd last seen him, skin translucent with energy patterns flowing beneath, eyes glowing solid green, Omnitrix symbol embedded in his chest rather than on his wrist. "Ben," she acknowledged, charm dispelled by his recognition. "I'm impressed," he said, approaching with an unnatural fluidity, as if partly incorporeal. The charm almost worked. Would have fooled any normal scanning system. "But not you," Gwen finished. "Not anymore," Ben agreed. "I see energy patterns now. Mana signatures. The underlying structure of reality itself." "Sounds exhausting," Gwen remarked, maintaining her calm despite the danger. "When do you sleep?" "I don't," Ben replied simply. "Not in the traditional sense. Consciousness division allows for continuous operation. Some forms rest while others remain active. That can't be healthy." A smile flickered across Ben's face, almost natural, almost human. "Says the Quarteranidite who pushes her powers beyond safe limits regularly." "Touché," Gwen conceded, taking a step toward the lab door. "So what happens now? You try to stop me? We fight? One of us gets hurt?" "I hoped we could talk," Ben said, surprising her. "Like we used to. Before all this." Gwen studied her cousin, searching for deception and finding only uncertainty. "About what?" "About what Azimuth told me," Ben replied. "About the chronivore, and its connection to my actions. About whether what I've built is worth the cost." Hope flickered in Gwen's chest. "You're having doubts." "I'm considering perspectives," Ben corrected. "Something I've become quite good at, with multiple consciousness streams." "Then consider this perspective," Gwen said, taking another cautious step toward him. "The cousin I grew up with, the hero I fought beside, he would never sacrifice freedom for security. Never force his will on others, no matter how beneficial he thought it was. That cousin watched people he loved die," Ben replied, voice hardening. "Realized that reactive heroism wasn't enough. That prevention required control." "And where does it end, Ben?" Gwen challenged. "How much control is enough? When everyone thinks like you, acts like you, when free will itself is gone." Ben's form flickered slightly, energy patterns flowing more rapidly beneath his translucent skin. The neural network would preserve individuality within collective purpose. Unity without uniformity. Pretty words for mind control, Gwen said flatly. Necessary measures for survival. Ben snapped, composure cracking. You haven't seen what I've seen, Gwen. The chronivore isn't just consuming stars, it's devouring possibility itself. Future timelines collapsing by the thousands. Because of what you did to the time stream, Gwen reminded him. Actions have consequences, Ben. Even yours. Ben fell silent, the glow of his eyes dimming slightly. And if Azmatha's failsafe works? If it resets everything? What then? Then we face the consequences together, Gwen replied softly. Like we always have. As a family. As a team. For a long moment, Ben seemed to consider her words, conflict evident in his expression. Then, slowly, he stepped aside, clearing the path to the laboratory door. The quantum synchronizer is on the third shelf, isolation chamber 5, he said quietly. It will be unstable outside containment. Handle it carefully. Gwen stared at him in shock. You're letting me take it. I'm letting you try Azmatha's way, Ben clarified. But not because I believe it will work. Because I need you to understand, when it fails, when the chronivore continues its consumption regardless, you'll see that my approach was the only option all along. And if it works? Gwen asked. Ben's smile was sad, almost resigned. Then I was wrong. And everything I've become will end. Gwen hesitated, torn between rushing for the component and embracing her cousin while this moment of clarity lasted. Go, Ben urged. Before I change my mind. Before my other aspects realize what I'm doing. Come with me, Gwen pleaded. Help us implement the failsafe. Be part of the solution. Ben shook his head. I can't abandon what I've built. Not yet. Not until I'm certain. Understanding the gift he was giving her, time, opportunity, hope, Gwen nodded and entered the laboratory. As promised, the quantum synchronizer waited in isolation chamber 5, a disk of shimmering material that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. With specialized tongs from her pocket, Gwen carefully transferred the component to a containment unit Cooper had designed. When she turned back toward the door, Ben was gone. The facility remained quiet as she retraced her steps, encountering no resistance. Outside, she found Alan and a soot-covered Manny waiting anxiously. You got it? Manny asked, eyes wide with disbelief. Gwen nodded, showing the contained component. Ben let me take it. Ben. Alan repeated incredulously. Our Ben. Megalomaniac Omnilord Ben. He's fighting whatever he's become, Gwen explained as they retreated from the facility. Part of him wants Azmatha's solution to work. And the other parts? Manny asked skeptically. Will try to stop us with everything they have, Gwen replied grimly. We need to move fast. Lab 33, orbiting Saturn in a cloaked facility disguised as a minor moon, housed the most secretive of Ben's projects, experiments related to consciousness transfer, multiple transformation stability, and time stream manipulation. Its existence was known only to Ben's inner circle and the highest levels of his regime. Which made Cooper Daniels' infiltration all the more impressive. Security systems bypassed, the Technopath reported, his cybernetic components interfacing directly with the facility's computers. But we've got bigger problems. Beside him, Rook Blanco tensed, proto-tool at the ready. What kind of problems? Ben knows we're here, Cooper replied, projecting a holographic display from his enhanced eye. Look. The display showed security footage from throughout the facility, each view featuring a different alien form, all converging on their position. Wrath, Ghost Freak, Gravitac, Automix, Chromastone, over a dozen in total, more than they'd anticipated. How is this possible? Rook asked, alarmed. Ben shouldn't be able to maintain this many transformations simultaneously, even with his enhanced abilities. He's pushing the Omnitrix beyond its limits, Cooper observed, scanning deeper into the facility systems. The energy readings are off the charts. If he maintains this level much longer, the Omnitrix will overload, Rook finished. Potentially with catastrophic consequences. Exactly. And look at this. Cooper highlighted a particular reading on his display. Temporal distortion increasing throughout the facility. The barrier between dimensions is weakening. Rook's expression darkened. The chronivore. Getting closer, Cooper confirmed. It's almost as if Ben is intentionally. He stopped abruptly, eyes widening. Oh no. What is it? Rook demanded. He's not trying to stop the chronivore, Cooper realized, horror dawning on his face. He's trying to control it. That's what this facility is for, creating a direct neural link between the Omnitrix network and the temporal anomaly. But that would give him control over time itself, Cooper finished. If he succeeds. Rook's grip tightened on his proto-tool. And if he fails? Then reality as we know it ends, Cooper said grimly. The chronivore consumes everything, unrestrained. Rook made a quick decision. We need that final component. You continue to the central laboratory. I will delay Ben's forms as long as possible. That's suicide, Cooper protested. Even with your skills, I do not intend to defeat them, Rook clarified. Merely distract them. Now go. Reluctantly, Cooper nodded and continued deeper into the facility while Rook took up a defensive position at a junction controlling access to multiple corridors. He didn't have to wait long. Wrath rounded the corner first, snarling with characteristic aggression. Let me tell you something, Rook Blanco, former partner and current traitor to Omnilord Tennyson. Wrath is going to tear you into so many pieces that other pieces will feel left out. Rook raised his proto-tool, but didn't fire. Ben. I know you can hear me through your transformations. This has gone too far. Too far. Ghost Freak phased through the wall behind him, voice echoing eerily. We've barely begun. Rook spun, proto-tool shifting to energy net configuration, but Gravitax's gravitational pull yanked the weapon from his hands before he could fire. You disappointed me, Rook, came Ben's voice from Chromastone as the crystalline alien approached from another corridor. I trusted you. And I trusted you, Rook replied, drawing a secondary weapon from his armor. The Ben Tennyson I partnered with would never have become this. The Ben Tennyson you partnered with was naive, Automix declared, hovering above them, hands glowing with nuclear energy. Reactive rather than proactive. Weak rather than decisive. Human rather than monstrous, Rook countered. The aliens paused, as if collectively processing this accusation. Then, in perfect unison, they attacked. Rook had prepared for this moment, activating a device on his belt that projected a localized null field, temporarily disrupting the Omnitrix signal in the immediate vicinity. The aliens staggered, their connection to Ben's central consciousness momentarily scrambled. It bought him perhaps 20 seconds, enough time to sprint down a side corridor, deploy a series of flashbang grenades behind him, and establish a new defensive position. Cooper, he called over the comm, status. Almost there, came the strained reply. But Ben's waiting for me. I can sense him in the system. The null field won't work a second time, Rook warned. Hurry. He could hear Ben's aliens recovering, spreading out to find him. The facility shuddered suddenly, artificial gravity fluctuating as systems began to malfunction. Cooper. Rook called again. It's not me, Cooper replied, voice tight with tension. The temporal distortions are increasing exponentially. The barrier's breaking down. Through a viewport, Rook could see space itself seeming to warp around the facility, stars blinking erratically, darkness spreading between them. The chronivore, growing closer. A slow clap echoed through the corridor. Rook turned to find Ben, the primary Ben, in his altered human form, approaching alone. Impressive delaying action, Ben commented, moving with that unsettling fluidity. You always were the tactical one. Rook raised his secondary weapon. This isn't you, Ben. The Omnitrix is corrupting your mind, your very being. Expanding it, Ben corrected. Beyond limitations you can't even comprehend. I comprehend what I see, Rook replied. A friend lost to power and grief. A hero fallen to hubris. Ben's expression darkened, energy patterns beneath his skin pulsing faster. You don't understand what's at stake. None of you do. Then explain it, Rook challenged. Help me understand why controlling billions of minds is necessary. Why erasing people from time itself is justified. Because the alternative is extinction. Ben snapped, his form flickering violently. The Chronivore isn't just some cosmic predator, it's a consequence. My consequence. The universe's immune response to what I did to the time stream. Then undo it, Rook urged. Let Azmatha's failsafe work. Ben laughed, a hollow, fractured sound. And return to what? Watching the same threats resurface. The same battles fought endlessly. The same people dying because I wasn't strong enough, fast enough, smart enough. Yes, Rook said simply. Because that is life, Ben. Imperfect. Uncertain. But free. Something flickered across Ben's face, doubt, perhaps, or recognition. Then his expression hardened again. It's too late for philosophy, Rook. Cooper has reached the final component. My other aspects are already moving to intercept. The facility shuddered more violently, emergency systems blaring warnings about structural integrity. Ben, Rook said urgently, the facility is breaking apart. The temporal distortions are exactly as predicted, Ben finished, smiling coldly. The Chronivore approaches. Soon I'll be able to establish direct contact. That's insanity. Rook exclaimed. Even with the Omnitrix network, you can't control a transdimensional entity of that magnitude. Can't I? Ben's eyes glowed brighter. I've evolved, Rook. Become something new. Something with the power to bend reality itself. Before Rook could respond, Cooper's voice crackled over the comm, I've got it. The temporal stabilizer. But, Ben's here, multiple forms, can't, the communication cut off abruptly. Ben's smile widened. Too late, old friend. Rook lunged forward suddenly, desperation overriding caution. Ben, listen to me. This isn't what Julie would have wanted. The name hit Ben like a physical blow. His form flickered violently, humanoid features momentarily more prominent, eyes clearing to show recognition. Julie, he whispered, voice suddenly his own again, younger, uncertain. She loved you for your humanity, Rook pressed, seeing the crack in Ben's facade. For your compassion. Your willingness to find another way. Ben's expression contorted with conflict, the Omnitrix symbol on his chest pulsing erratically. She's gone because I failed. Because I wasn't enough. She's gone because Vilgax killed her, Rook corrected firmly. Not because you failed. And becoming this, he gestured to Ben's transformed state, dishonors her memory, not preserves it. The facility rocked with a massive explosion, throwing both of them against the wall. Emergency bulkheads slammed down throughout the structure as decompression warnings blared. Cooper. Rook called into his comm, Cooper, respond. Static answered him. Ben closed his eyes, seeming to commune with his extended consciousness. When he opened them again, conflict still raged in their green depths. He's alive, Ben reported. Injured, but alive. Jettisoned in an escape pod with the component. Hope surged in Rook's chest. Then Azmatha's failsafe, remains a long shot, Ben interrupted. But that's no longer our most immediate problem. He gestured to the viewport, where space itself seemed to be tearing open, a vast, yawning darkness spreading across the stars, consuming them one by one. The Chronivore, Ben said quietly. It's here. The three components of Azimuth's failsafe came together on Mars, in a hidden Plummer outpost abandoned during the early days of Ben's expansion. The Resistance leadership gathered around a makeshift laboratory where Cooper, arm in a sling but otherwise functional, worked alongside Blukik and Dryba to integrate the chronometric regulator, quantum synchronizer, and temporal stabilizer. How much longer? Gwen asked, watching anxiously as the Galvan technicians made microscopic adjustments to the device. Hard to say, Cooper replied, wincing as he shifted his injured arm. The components are extremely unstable. Connecting them without triggering a temporal cascade is challenging. We don't have time for challenges, Max said grimly, pointing to a monitor showing astronomical readings. Whatever that thing is, it's consuming the Saturn system now. Earth is next. The screen displayed the spreading darkness that had already swallowed multiple outer planets, a void that stars themselves couldn't illuminate, growing larger by the hour. Blukik, Dryba, Gwen addressed the Galvan technicians directly. What are our chances here? Honestly. The two exchanged glances. Well, Blukik began, the theoretical probability of successfully integrating three temporally unstable components, without causing a localized reality collapse, Dryba continued. While simultaneously generating a reset pulse powerful enough to affect the omnitrix across spacetime, approximately 12.87%, they finished together. Kevin, who had arrived an hour earlier after slipping away from Central Command, shook his head. So we're betting everything on a 1 in 8 chance. Approximately 1 in 7.77, Dryba corrected. Not helping, Kevin muttered. Gwen placed a hand on his arm. It's better odds than we've had in months. The outpost's communication system suddenly crackled to life, a familiar voice filling the room. Gwen. Grandpa. Anyone receiving this? Rook. Max rushed to the console, activating the response channel. Where are you? What's your status? Currently aboard an escape vessel from Facility 33, Rook replied, transmission breaking up with interference. The station has been destroyed. The chronovore is accelerating. And Ben? Gwen asked, dreading the answer. Silence stretched for several seconds before Rook responded. He remained behind. Attempting to interface with the entity. Interface? Cooper looked up sharply. What does that mean exactly? He believes the Omnitrix network can establish direct neural contact with the chronovore, Rook explained. Control it rather than stop it. That's insane, Kevin exclaimed. Even with his enhanced abilities, connecting directly to something like that would tear his consciousness apart, Cooper finished grimly. Or worse, allow the entity access to the entire Omnitrix network, and by extension, every mind Ben has connected to it. Gwen's blood ran cold. How many people are connected to Ben's network now? Millions, Kevin answered quietly. He's been expanding the voluntary integration program for months. Government officials, military leaders, key infrastructure personnel. If the chronovore gains access to those minds, Max said slowly, the devastation would be incalculable. Then we need to activate the failsafe immediately, Gwen decided. Ready or not? Blukik and Dryba exchanged alarmed glances. But the calibration sequence isn't complete. Dryba protested. The targeting matrix is still unstable. Blukik added. It's now or never, Gwen insisted. The longer we wait, the more likely Ben does something we can't undo. After a moment of tense silence, Cooper nodded. She's right. We can activate with the current calibration. The success probability drops to maybe 8%, but it's better than 0, Max finished, decision made. Do it. As Cooper and the Galvans made final preparations, Gwen pulled Kevin aside. There's something I need to tell you, she said quietly. About Ben. Kevin's expression was guarded. What about him? When I retrieved the quantum synchronizer, Gwen explained, he let me take it. Deliberately. Part of him wants this to work, Kevin. Part of him wants to be saved from what he's become. Hope flickered across Kevin's face, quickly suppressed. And the other parts? Will fight us with everything they have, Gwen acknowledged. But the real Ben is still in there. Still fighting. Before Kevin could respond, the outpost shuddered violently, emergency systems activating. Proximity alert. Helen called from the monitoring station. Multiple ships entering Mars orbit. Omnitrix central insignia. He found us, Max said grimly, drawing his weapon. Cooper, how close are you? Final sequence initiating, Cooper replied, fingers flying across controls as the failsafe device began to pulse with energy. 2 minutes to activation. The outpost rocked again as weapons fire struck the surface above them. We need to buy time, Max decided, turning to the assembled resistance fighters. Defensive positions. Hold them off as long as possible. As the others moved to comply, Gwen remained by the failsafe device, hands glowing with mana energy. What are you doing? Cooper asked, not looking up from his work. Adding my power to the transmission, Gwen explained. The failsafe needs to reach Ben directly, not just the Omnitrix, but Ben himself. My mana connection to him might help target through the interference. Cooper nodded, adjusting calculations. It might work. But Gwen, you should know, the reset pulse will travel both ways along any connection. If you're linked to Ben when it hits, I'll be affected too, Gwen finished. I know the risk. Above them, the sounds of battle erupted, energy weapons, explosions, shouts. Ben's forces had breached the outpost. 1 minute, Cooper announced as the failsafe device pulsed faster, components synchronizing. The laboratory door burst open. Max and Kevin backed through it, firing repeatedly at unseen pursuers. We can't hold them. Kevin shouted, absorbing metal from the wall to reinforce his armor. Too many. Through the doorway floated Ben, or what remained of him. His form had deteriorated further, barely humanoid now, more energy than matter. Behind him came several of his alien aspects, each similarly distorted. Stop, Ben commanded, voice a cacophony of overlapping tones. You don't understand what you're doing. We're saving you from yourself, Gwen replied, maintaining her position by the failsafe. Ben's gaze fixed on the device, recognition and alarm flashing across his fractured features. 30% chance of success at best. 70% chance of catastrophic temporal collapse. Unacceptable risk. Says the guy trying to mind meld with a cosmic horror, Kevin retorted, positioning himself between Ben and the device. The chronivore can be controlled, Ben insisted, advancing slowly. I've established preliminary contact. Its consciousness is vast but navigable. With the full network, you'll doom everyone connected to you, Gwen interrupted. Ben, please. Let us help you. For a moment, just a moment, doubt flickered across Ben's face. Then his expression hardened. 30 seconds, Cooper reported, the failsafe now pulsing with blinding energy. I can't let you do this, Ben declared, raising a hand crackling with power. Max stepped forward, placing himself directly in Ben's path. Then you'll have to go through me first, kiddo. Ben hesitated, conflict evident in his fractured expression. Grandpa, I know you're still in there, Ben, Max said firmly. The real you. The boy who found the Omnitrix all those years ago. Who wanted to help people, not control them. That boy was weak, Ben replied, but with less conviction. That boy was human, Max countered. And brave enough to do the right thing, no matter how hard. The failsafe device reached critical energy levels, components fully synchronized, ready to activate. Now, Cooper. Gwen shouted, pouring her mana into the device. Cooper slammed his hand down on the activation control. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to hiccup, a pulse of energy expanding outward from the device, passing through solid matter as if it weren't there. The wave hit Ben first, his fractured form seizing as the Omnitrix symbol on his chest flared blindingly bright. No! Ben screamed, a sound of both rage and relief, as if two aspects of himself fought for dominance in that final moment. The pulse continued outward, accelerating as it went, passing through the outpost, through Mars, into space beyond. Ben's alien aspects flickered and vanished one by one, their connection severed. Ben himself collapsed to his knees, form fluctuating wildly between human and alien states, the Omnitrix symbol pulsing erratically. What's happening to him? Kevin shouted over the rising whine of energy. The failsafe is resetting the Omnitrix, Cooper explained, checking readings on his display. Severing all secondary transformations, reverting to original parameters. And Ben? Max demanded, moving toward his grandson despite the dangerous energy surrounding him. Cooper's expression was grim. His consciousness has been divided for so long. The reintegration process will be traumatic. Ben convulsed on the floor, body shifting between forms in rapid succession, Heat Blast, Diamond Head, 4 Arms, Ghost Freak, dozens more in the span of seconds. Each transformation lasted only a moment before being pulled back into the Omnitrix, which pulsed with increasing intensity. Gwen maintained her mana connection, creating a channel for the failsafe pulse to follow through Ben's extended network. Her eyes glowed with violet fire as she witnessed what no one else could see, Ben's fragmented consciousness being forcibly reintegrated, pieces of himself scattered across the galaxy suddenly snapping back together. The pain was unimaginable. Gwen felt echoes of it through their connection, nearly overwhelming her. How Ben endured the full force of it, she couldn't comprehend. Something's wrong, Cooper announced suddenly, alarm in his voice. The temporal reset isn't stabilizing. The failsafe is only partially successful. On the monitors, the Chronivore continued its advance through the solar system, unaffected by the failsafe pulse. Why isn't it working? Max demanded. The temporal damage is too extensive, Cooper explained frantically. The failsafe is resetting the Omnitrix, but not the timeline alterations Ben already enacted. The Chronivore continues to feed on the temporal wounds. Ben's voice rose in a cry of agony as the last of his extended forms were ripped back into the Omnitrix. His body, now fully human again, arched off the floor as the device on his wrist flared one final time, then went dark. The room fell silent except for Ben's ragged breathing. Gwen broke the mana connection, staggering with exhaustion. Is it over? Before anyone could answer, the outpost shook violently, not from weapons fire, but from something far more dangerous. Through the viewport, they could see Mars' sky darkening unnaturally as the Chronovore's influence reached the red planet. We failed, Cooper said quietly, checking his instruments. The Omnitrix reset, but the Chronovore remains. And without Ben's network to oppose it. There has to be another way, Max insisted, kneeling beside his unconscious grandson. Ben. Slowly, painfully, Ben opened his eyes, normal human eyes, no longer glowing with Omnitrix energy. He looked around in confusion, as if seeing the world clearly for the first time in months. Grandpa, he whispered, voice hoarse. Gwen. What, where am I? Mars outpost, Gwen explained, moving to his side. Ben, how do you feel? Like I've been hit by way big, he groaned, trying to sit up. And my head, it's so quiet. I can't feel the others anymore. The failsafe worked, Gwen told him. The Omnitrix reset to original parameters. No more multiple transformations. Understanding dawned slowly on Ben's face, followed by a complex mix of emotions, relief, loss, shame. I remember, everything. What I did. What I became. That wasn't you, Max said firmly. Not the real you. Ben met his grandfather's gaze. It was me, Grandpa. A version of me I never wanted to become, but me nonetheless. His eyes shifted to the viewport, where darkness continued to spread. And the Chronivore is still coming. The failsafe reset the Omnitrix, Cooper explained, but not the timeline alterations you already made. The temporal wounds remain. Ben struggled to his feet, supported by Gwen and Max. Then there's only one option left. He looked down at the Omnitrix, dormant now, reset to its original state. With a familiar gesture, he activated it, the holographic interface displaying available transformations. Ben, what are you doing? Gwen asked warily. What I should have done from the beginning, Ben replied. Fixing my mistakes, not compounding them. He selected a transformation and pressed down on the dial. Green light enveloped him, transforming him into a familiar crystalline form. Clockwork, Kevin identified. But what can you do against something like the Chronivore? Even with time something went wrong with this response, please try again. Shift to the next chapter of the story. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.